So again, this is MJSA Expo Online, a way for you to get to know the suppliers within the MJSA community and build relationships remotely when we can't quite do it in real life yet, though hopefully that'll happen again soon enough. So today, your presenter is Marc Rothenberg. He is the president of Intercept Silver and Jewelry Care, which is a member of the Intercept Technology Group. And let's just jump right in. And Marc, how did you get started and why?
Well, it's an interesting story. Basically, I was a jewelry manufacturer in the Northeast. We sold to mom and pop jewelers in the tri-state area. I was a family business. My grandfather actually started the company, so I was a third generation in the company. And one of our accounts was a very old account. My grandfather sold him, and then my father sold the son, and then I sold the grandson, and goes back a long time. Just sort of an aside, when I first came in working for my father, I was his shadow, and I learned all about the industry and manufacturing, from the ground up. And I had to follow him, when we went out on sales calls. And finally, after about a year, he once said to me, he said, "I think you're ready to go out on the road with the line by yourself." So I looked at him, I said, "Well, who do you want me to go see?" And I started naming accounts. He says, "Oh, no, so those are my accounts." He said, "You gotta go get your own." I was like, oh my God. I thought I was just gonna go into daddy's business and make money, right? I was 22 years old, what did I know? Anyways, 10 years, 15, 20, almost 20 years later, that one store that I was just mentioning before, the owner of the store knew the gentleman that invented the Intercept technology at Bell Labs in Murray Hill, New Jersey. And one Christmas season when we were running special orders back and forth for their store, and the father had come down, I hadn't seen him in a while. He said, "Oh, Marc, how you doing?" Talking. He says, "I don't know why I never thought about you before." He says, "But we're working with this technology, this Intercept technology. We use it for coins. And we're looking for someone who maybe get into the jewelry industry." So I was very intrigued. I researched it online. I thought, wow, this looks amazing. And of course I had illusions of grandeur.
We all do it.
It could make me $1 billion, which it hasn't yet, but I'm working on it. Anyway, so I jumped on board. I showed it to some people. I started showing it to the jewelers that we were selling to. There was some interest. Finally, I got an introduction to the Home Shopping Network, and we dealt with the quality assurance department, and they were using 3M anti-tarnish paper, but it was causing an issue. It was abrasive, it was scratching the silver, and it left a dust behind, a charcoal dust behind, because it's charcoal paper. Anyway, they loved Intercept because it was clean, it wasn't abrasive, and it actually worked a lot better. So they said, "Oh, well, we need about 10,000 of these. Can you cut it into little pieces?" I thought, okay, fine. So I cut with an old-fashioned paper cutter, 10,000 of them.
Thank God it wasn't charcoal.
We want 60,000 of them. I'm like, oh my God, I can't cut these up by hand. Anyway, I spoke with the licensee of the technology, and he said, "We'll make a die and we'll get it up and running." And we worked on that for about a year. And then one day I get a call from quality assurance, the purchasing agent over at QVC, and they said, "We're looking at your anti-tarnish stamps. We'd really love to put your product in our vendor manual and have all our vendors use it so that silver doesn't tarnish while it's being shipped and stored." And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I'll pay you to put it in the book. So of course I didn't say that, but I was thinking it. And they did that, and then a whole world opened up to me. And it was at that point I realized I needed to get out of jewelry manufacturing. It just seemed a lot more intriguing. My wife said to me, she says, "You're working 60, 70 hours a week doing manufacturing. I bet you could work half as much and make more money." Well, I don't work half as much, but I do make more money. But it was hard work, and we've been doing it now. We're into our 16th year,
Okay.
and it's really been a blessing. In the beginning, it had a mind of its own. We were being contacted from companies all over the globe, and now we ship internationally. We ship to a lot of different countries. Intercept is actually used on all 7 continents. Even in Antarctica.
I was going to say, in Antarctica? What do they use it for there?
It was actually used by the British Museum, was using it to protect items that were belongings of Lord Shackling, also known as Lord Shackleton, I believe. And he was
Explorer.
He was an
explorer.
Yeah, I'm sorry, thank you. He was an explorer in Antarctica, so they started using it for that. Intercept is used in a lot of different industries. It's used for automotive, electronics, firearms, all sorts of industrial applications, museums, and of course in the jewelry industry, which we got it going into that industry, like I said, almost 16 years ago. So basically, we're a member of the Intercept Technology Group, which is a worldwide group of various Intercept companies. Each of us works in a different industry. And our market is for the jewelry industry and also for consumers. So jewelry manufacturers, designers, distributors, wholesalers, and jewelry consumers. So basically, that's basically our background. That's how we got started. And our products also distributed by a lot of companies that we sell to. Our distributors such as Rio Grande, Guess Wine, Stoller, and a lot of them use it for their own product, and they also sell it to their customers. So it's a great product. It's got a lot of wonderful attributes. People can go on our website and they can look at how it works and why it's better, and you can learn all about it.
So let's jump into that, because you and I had a fun conversation about why Intercept technology is superior to something like a 3M anti-tarnish strip. So tell us that story, because I think that's very interesting.
Okay, well, so Intercept, just a little more background about the Intercept technology in general. It was actually born out of the restoration of the Statue of Liberty product.
Oh.
So it's an American-made product. There was an inventor by the name of John Franny. He was an inventor of Bell Labs, who just retired a couple of years ago. And back when, some of you may recall, when they were doing restoration on the Statue of Liberty, they had to replace the torch and the crown and various internal work. But the problem was they had all this copper that was, 200 plus years old. It was all patinted, green. And they had to find a way to get the new copper to match the old copper. He realized, he went up on the roof of Bell Labs in Bury Hill, New Jersey, started scraping off the crystals because they had a copper roof. He started scraping off the crystals and started experimenting with it. He realized that by increasing the surface area of a copper molecule over 260 times, that it became a sacrificial corrosion site. So they were able to get, with the new copper, 200 plus years of patina in a matter of weeks.
I didn't understand that. So what's a sacrificial corrosion site?
Okay, so a sacrificial corrosion site, in this particular instance, because it's a high surface area copper, corrosive gases are what make the environment, or what make things corrode. Now, corrosion is also called patina, it's called tarnish, it's called rust, it's all
corrosion.
And it's the atmospheric gases, H2S, chlorine, sulfur, nitrous gases in the atmosphere that cause items to corrode. So in a sacrificial corrosion site, what it does is this high surface area copper acts as a magnet for those corrosive gases.
So it grabs it.
So anything that's near it, those gases won't get attracted to that, they'll get attracted to the copper. It's such a reactive, high surface metal. It's just a very strong magnet to corrosives. So that's why we call it a sacrificial corrosion site, because it sacrifices itself so that everything around it stays pristine.
Okay.
So then what they did was, if you ever had an old AT&T slimline phone, some of you may not be old enough to remember that, but I am. And they were having a lot of issues with that and a lot of their telecommunications back in the 80s, after this Statue of Liberty project was done. So they had to find a way to solve that problem. They looked at the Intercept technology and said, if we could somehow reverse this technology and instead of having it be and still have it be a strong magnet for corrosives, but if we can make it that instead of creating the copper as a metal, if we could somehow combine it with a polymer, make it out like a plastic or like a film, we could make packaging material.
Okay.
So a lot of companies tried to do that. And every time they tried to do that, trying to combine copper and plastic, came out like a sheet metal. There's not a whole lot you can do with sheet metal, at least not in the packaging.
Not in packaging, right?
Okay, so they finally found a way. It's a multi-layered patent. They patented this high surface area copper, the process of creating that copper, and the process of combining it with a polymer and having it come out like a plastic film. just a little interesting background. It's very complicated. It sounds simple, but it's very complicated. And when the direct licensee of the technology started to work with it, and he's a chemical engineer, he had to call up the inventor at Bell Labs because he couldn't figure out how to make the stuff. And so it's very difficult to understand how to manufacture it. So it's still under patent. When the patent expires, no one's going to be able to figure it out anyway. But that's basically how it all started. And
So when you're using that on your silver jewelry, instead of using something like a 3M strip, what's the difference in the way that they help reduce or avoid the tarnish?
okay, so the way 3M works, 3M is charcoal paper, carbon. Carbon is what we call a passive absorber of gases. So it will absorb sulfur and chlorine and all these corrosive gases, but if it gets too hot or too humid, or if it becomes oversaturated, it will then release those same gases back out.
Off gases.
And end up tarnishing the item you're trying to protect.
Okay.
The other thing is that Intercept is not abrasive, so it doesn't scratch. It can be direct contact with the jewelry or gemstones, and it won't harm it in any way. The difference is where 3M charcoal paper is a passive absorber, Intercept is a reactive one. So what happens is the corrosive gases are attracted to the copper inside the film, and they bond with the copper inside the film. So they get neutralized and they become one with the copper film. And what happens is over time, the Intercept bag or the Intercept strip or tab will start to tarnish because it's acting as a sacrificial corrosion site to save the item it's protecting. When that starts to happen, you see the color change. It's telling you, hey, it's time to change it. Now that could take, with the Intercept bag, it could take years, depending on which product part you use. Some work for 3 years, some work for 10, 20, 30 years. The thicker the film, the longer it will last. So that's the main difference between 3M and Intercept. Intercept's just a much better product. And that's part of the reason why 3M stopped making it, because they just couldn't compete anymore. It's just everybody was switching over to the Intercept film.
Well, and then when it bonds to the copper and therefore becomes part of the copper, so even when you see the bag or the strip turning colors and you know it's time to change it, it's never going to get to the point where it off-gasses the tarnish back to the jewelry again, right? It's always going to hold on to it.
Right, because it bonds with the copper inside the film. Once it's attached to it, it cannot come back out. So the gases are not coming back out. Unlike the charcoal paper, they will. So maybe we should go to some slides.
Yep, let me switch over there. Just give it a second to kick in. There.
Okay, you can see that?
Yep, looking at the slide with the blue bar at the top that says Intercept Technology.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, the Intercept Technology Group is a group of companies worldwide, and we all use the Intercept technology for a variety of industries. We are the master distributor and manufacturer for Intercept in the jewelry industry. Now, one of the problems in this world that we live in is we live in a very corrosive environment. The levels of corrosive air, the corrosives that are getting into the atmosphere and into the Earth's atmosphere are just ever increasing day by day. China is probably, we focus on China because a lot of jewelry, especially silver jewelry, is made in China. But we focus on China because it's probably the most corrosive environment in the world. You can see by this chart that in North America, it's about 7 parts per billion of H2S in the air. You go over to Shanghai, China, it's 800 parts. You go to a manufacturing plant, and it goes to 1,500 parts. These are parts per billion.
Right.
Okay, so the problem, well, we'll get to that next. So we study more sulfur because that's more of a problem, because when there's dirt in the air, that causes more of a concern. So the interesting part is we live in this corrosive environment. It's affecting every country. If you were in if you took a look at Mount Hood in Oregon, in the dead of winter, the western face of the mountain, when it's snow covered, has a brown hue to it, brown color, because all the corrosive gases are coming over through the jet stream from China and are landing on the snow there. If you look on the eastern side of the mountain, the snow is white. So it gives you an idea how bad, how corrosive this environment is that we live in. Now I'm just going to go back to another slide here. And we talk about corrosion because it's a huge cost that it incurs on the world, not just in jewelry, but in every industry. If you look at, we tend to look at micro corrosion, we tend to look at micro corrosion because that's really what tarnish is. If you look at statistics, the National Association of Corrosion Engineers, they have these conferences and they get these global studies. You can see what's happened to the ever-increasing corrosive environment. Since 1998, you'll see it was $276 billion cost of corrosion. By 2016, it was $2.5 trillion.
It's an order of magnitude higher.
It is just unbelievable. And we're all breathing this, and it's not good. So we live in a very corrosive environment.
So the fact that my silver is always tarnishing isn't just because I'm always like running around in a sweat.
Exactly. And an interesting thing that a lot of people don't realize is when you polish silver, you're actually putting fine micro scratches in silver. And what that does is, the more you polish the silver, the more it tarnishes and the faster it tarnishes. So it's sort of like a...
Is it because those grooves increase the actual surface area available to the corrosion?
That is exactly right. Increasing the surface area, thereby increasing the rate of corrosion. Now there's certain metals that don't, only the noble metals in their purest form, like 24 karat gold, for example, or platinum, they don't tarnish. They just basically look the way they look and that's it. But when we start alloying metals, that's when we get into problems. Now there's a lot of different methods to use for preventing tarnish and corrosion, which is really the focus of the webinar today. Now, there's the things to consider are what we call the 4 R's: repairs, replacement, reputation, and risk. Now, when you have silver that's, for example, rhodium plated or it has some sort of coating on it, whether it be an E-coating or some sort of other plating, if you have to do any repair work or polishing work, you have to solder it, maybe you have to size a ring or repair a chain or solder on a post. As soon as you do that, you've just killed the rhodium and or whatever coating was on there. So that's a problem with just about every method that's out there, which is why Intercept, using anti-tarnish strips or bags, is a preferable method because you don't have to worry about that. It's not an issue. Some of the other costs involved is when you have the micro corrosion, you have to, sometimes it can get so bad where you just literally have to replace the piece. If it's sitting in a warehouse or wherever it is, it's going to start to tarnish eventually if it's not protected. Well, what does this cost? Well, the cost is to replace the goods. Then it also has an effect on your reputation. Okay, so we take a company like QVC, for example, or HSN, or David Yurman, or Pandora, or any of these companies that are selling a lot of jewelry. Their reputation is at risk because if you get a piece, if you're a consumer and you start getting in pieces that are tarnished, you're also tarnishing your reputation. And that's a huge cost. It's even hard. How do you even put a number on that? If you lose that reputation, you're out of business. And then, of course, there's the risk. And that risk is basically all of the above that we just spoke about. But there are ways we can control it. And there are basically, these are the 4 types of corrosion inhibitors that are on the market today. Charcoal paper, which we discussed, which is now no longer available. Because 3M stopped making it. There's also volatile corrosion inhibitors, which the way they work is they actually emit a gas coating onto the product that you're trying to protect. So those coatings can lead to contact dermatitis and all sorts of issues. But more importantly, it's not temperature or humidity independent. So again, you're back into that problem. If it's too hot or too humid, it stops working.
Well, now VCIs, can we even sell? I know we can't do VCI products in Europe. Are we able to actually sell products that are imbued with VCIs in the US?
Well, that's a very good question. And you can actually buy VCIs here in the United States, and it's kind of a catch-22. If you look at, OSHA actually has data on this, and it basically says that VCIs are a dangerous substance. But because the manufacturers of VCIs can claim proprietary ingredients, they don't have to tell you what's in it.
Oh, they don't disclose which. Okay, so
They don't
I guess
have to disclose it, which is a really scary kind of thought.
yeah. So what are the ingredients in Intercept?
Okay, well, Intercept. Okay, so VCIs. I can show you a list of ingredients. It's about 20 ingredients long, maybe more. Intercept has 2 ingredients: copper and polyethylene, and that's it. Nothing else.
So you can use it for fighting infection too.
Actually, yeah, Intercept is actually an antimicrobial.
It is, yeah.
And we're actually going to, some of the Intercept companies overseas are doing it, a couple of here in the US that don't service the jewelry industry, but other industries. We now have a new product, we're going to be coming out with it as well. They're masks that use another form of Intercept that absorbs, stop 98 or 99% of the virus.
Interesting.
So it's going to be a big issue, a big product for us and for everybody. If you're a jewelry manufacturer, you need to keep your factory running. It may be a good idea to get these masks.
Yeah.
We'll have them up soon, but
that's pretty cool.
We'll talk about that another time.
All right, I derailed you on VCIs. Back to here.
Yeah, right. Back to the VCI. So they're like I said, they're not temperature or humidity independent, and they don't have to say about the ingredients. So that's just if you go to Germany, where they have the strictest environmental laws on the planet, they actually have legislation that restricts how they're handled and how they're used. Intercept is not a VCI. It doesn't rely on any coatings, it doesn't need any chemicals or oils. All it does is it absorbs, neutralizes the corrosive gases that cause metals to corrode.
Okay.
And you can see there are different types of VCIs. They come in egg form, they come in paper form. Intercept only comes in a poly. Corrosion costs, okay, again, this is how the Intercept chemistry, how Intercept works. And basically, this diagram basically shows you how the sulfur and corrosive gases bond with the copper inside the Intercept film, and then they can't come back out. They get neutralized. So it kills the corrosive gases. And of course, using Intercept will mitigate all the risks that we talked about. It's recyclable. It's environmentally friendly. It breaks down to polymer dust in a landfill.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's very fully compliant with all U.S. and European packaging legislation, and it's fully safe and recyclable. And again, it's not abrasive, so even if it comes in contact with opals, emeralds, amber, turquoise, pearl, and softest of stones will not affect it. Okay, so we're going to jump back to the. Let's not do that. Should go back to the other screen now. We're back here where we left off with the levels of corrosion. So we live in a very corrosive environment, as we know. Now, one of the other areas where corrosive gases cause problems for jewelry manufacturers and retailers is in the packaging.
Yeah.
We do a lot of testing for companies. We often contact, so we're having a big problem with Tarnish. We don't know where it's coming from. Can you help us? And we tell them, first thing we say is send us your packaging. Because 9 times out of 10, that's where it's coming.
That's where it's happening, yeah.
There's a lot of packaging. It's all, I wouldn't say all, but a majority of it is manufactured in China. Mm-hmm. And they use sulfur-based, animal-based adhesives. Animal-based adhesives are loaded with sulfur. So it causes a lot of corrosion, causes a lot of tarnish. Then you're taking an item, you're putting it in a box, made in China with all the
imbued
sulfur
with corrosives,
inside.
yep.
And all of a sudden they're having a problem. And we've done tests where tests come back with levels of H2S and sulfur that are in the parts per million range. Now remember, I was saying earlier about China, there's 800 to 1,500 parts per billion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're coming back with numbers in the packaging, they're in the parts per million. So it's outrageous how high these the corrosives are in the packaging. So it's no wonder everybody's having a problem with it. That's where Intercept comes into play, because you can now put one of our little squares in there, or you can put it in our bags. You can even put it in one of our pouches that we take the Intercept in a liquid form. We coat the inside of the pouch, makes a little bit nicer presentation. But it solves the problem that all these companies are having with their packaging. Now, you could try to go back to the manufacturer and try and say, hey, we want all synthetic adhesives. We don't want any animal-based glues. And they might do that for the first go around, but eventually they go back to using the same glue because the synthetics are too expensive. So it's an ongoing issue.
Well, and don't the packages also pick up some of the corrosion from the environment? So even if they went to synthetics, they got that high.
Yeah, right. I mean, for example, even if you left a piece of silver jewelry out on the table, on the counter in your manufacturing facility, within a couple of weeks, it's going to start to tarnish because these gases that we spoke about. Remember, I was saying how corrosive the environment is. We're breathing these gases every day. They're in the room that you're in right now. They're in the factories that we go to, the stores. It's everywhere. Maybe the Green New Deal can help solve some of that because it's a big problem. It causes, as we saw from the numbers, the cost of corrosion is huge. And it also takes a toll on everybody's health that we don't know about.
So Fred's asking what the shelf life is for silver jewelry using the strips.
Okay, so the anti-tarnish tabs and strips, they basically work from anywhere from 6 to 12 months. They can last longer. And again, it depends on the environment that you're in. Obviously, if you're putting it in a box that has a lot of sulfur in it, it's going to be more like 6 months, maybe 12 months. It varies. It's hard to put an exact number on it because we can't control the environment that it's in. We can only absorb and neutralize the corrosive gases that are in that environment. But generally speaking, the strips last 6 to 12 months. All of our products have a 5-year, what we call a 5-year shelf life. So you have to put them to use within 5 years. Once they're activated, which means put into a packaging that's something you're trying to protect, that's when the 6 to 12 month period starts with the strips and tabs. For our poly bags, they minimum 3 years of protection. So if you had them stored away, you didn't use them, took them out 4.5 years later, put a piece of silver in it, it's going to work for another 3 years from that time.
So if I have a package of Intercept strips and it's tucked away in our supply cabinet, you're saying take it out and put it to work within 5 years. And then from the time you put that strip to work, it could be anywhere from 6 to 18 months, depending on environmental.
Yeah, well, 6 to 12 months.
6 to 12.
It could possibly last longer. I mean, we've had people say they've used it for 1.5 years, 2 years, and it's still not having any tarnish. And that may be because maybe their environment isn't quite as corrosive as somebody else's. But generally, we see 6 to 12 months.
And what's the 5-year parameter based on?
Well, the 5-year parameter is just based on the fact that when it's stored away, there's a very small amount of corrosives that it's going to affect
to it anyway. Okay.
Really, Intercept really has almost an unlimited shelf life, but because we can't control the environment, we don't really publicize that. That's why we put the 5-year limit on it, because it protects everybody, including ourselves. But more or less, it lasts a lot longer.
Okay, so Lisa's asking, do you need more than one tab? And I'm picturing my jewelry box where I have things stored in little bags, and then I have little Intercept squares with like individual pieces. Is like that what we're supposed to be doing? Like how much Intercept to jewelry ratio?
Okay, so if you use our 1-inch square tabs, they will protect an enclosed environment, closed container for up to 30 cubic inches.
So I'm
it's
using
not a
way more
linear
than I'm
scale.
supposed
It
to.
doesn't mean if you put 2, you're going to get 60. Because So it's for smaller areas. I mean, basically it'll work in most jewelry size poly bags. If you're using it, if you have a jewelry chest at home, we'd want to go to our 2" by 7" by 7" strip. That will protect up to 420 cubic inches.
All right, so I just want you to know I'm using way more than I'm supposed to on the personal level, but none of my stuff is tarnished.
So it's working.
But maybe a little overkill here.
We do know that Intercept definitely works. Like it's used in a lot of different industries. You can go on our website and you can see the companies that use it. I mean, it's used by every major jewelry manufacturer, some of the biggest retailers. It's used by BMW, Rolls-Royce, Volkswagen, Toyota, Texas Instruments. The list goes on and on. It's a proven technology. So and it's just fantastic, which is why I got so intrigued by it in the beginning. So we talked about the tarnishing. Is it coming in packaging? Yes, most likely it is. And here's basically kind of repeating what we were saying earlier about the benefits and the attributes of Intercept. It acts as a gas barrier, absorbs reaction, neutralizes corrosive gases. It's not abrasive. It doesn't outgas. That's what we were talking about. If it gets too hot or too humid, will it release the gases back out? No, Intercept can't do that because the gases are bonded with the film. It's clean, it's safe, it's non-toxic. Another thing I left out before, it's hypoallergenic, which is also a factor. And it's also the only product to win the German Environmental Award, anti-tarnish material. And it's also ROHS compliant, it's lead-free, and it's also Proposition 65 compliant as well. So it's a highly effective and safe material. This is just a comparison of Intercept anti-tarnish strips compared to DCIs and charcoal paper. Just shows why Intercept is just a better product. Again, you can find that on our website. We did a test. We compared Intercept tabs to other products. And if you remember, I was talking about levels of corrosive gases. Charcoal paper only works on extremely high levels of corrosives, which is why it's not quite as effective as Intercept. This chart basically shows that Intercept works on a much wider range, whereas the charcoal paper only works above a certain range, which is such a high level of concentrated gases that if you were in the chamber with that level of gas, you would die. Just another reason why Intercept's just a better product. This was part of the analysis that we did, and these are the results of that analysis. You can see you can't see anything less than 2 nanometers. And you can see in this chart, the Intercept material is 10 times less than the visible threshold we've seen with the other pieces. So it works phenomenally. It's just a great product. I tell people the reason why I got involved with Intercept is, and I say it's the best product out there. I don't say it because I sell it. I say it because it's true. I did my research before I got involved with it. And it really is truly the best product for them.
So is what this chart is showing us is that when you use, so there's still some tarnish there, but at much, much tinier levels?
Right, you won't see it with the naked eye.
Okay.
Once you get above, you can see from the results of the other 2 items that once you get above 2, you start to see it. But with Intercept, you don't all the way up to 13 months. You still don't see it.
Okay. Very cool.
And again, these are some of the companies that use our product, and that's basically it as far as the
slides go.
The slideshow and the more technical aspects.
All right. Let's go back to our faces then. So we have some questions about use cases. So I think that's a good place to sort of jump off. Estelle is saying, what if we package our jewelry inside of a plastic bag and then inside a paper-lined box?
Sorry, say that one.
The question is, what if we package our jewelry inside a plastic bag and then inside a paper-lined box? I'm assuming that still inside the plastic bag is where you'd want the Intercept tab, right?
That's where you'd want to put the Intercept inside the plastic bag. And here's something about regular plastic bags, chlorine will pass through a normal plastic bag in less than 2 weeks. What chlorine does is it speeds up the corrosion process. So if there's sulfur or H2S present, the chlorine will accelerate the
straight through.
tarnish.
Well, and I think a lot of people stick their silver jewelry in these little bags thinking that it helps protect them. But really, between the corrosives that are in the plastic itself and then the chlorine passing through, it's almost like we're wasting tons of plastic and putting all this plastic into the environment for no
Right.
tarnish benefit.
Yeah, and a lot of that regular old plastic is going to get thrown out. A lot of it's not recyclable. That's the beauty of Intercept. It actually recycle it.
Yeah. Estelle's also asking, do you make a necklace size Intercept Ziploc that can handle a neck wire?
Largest Ziploc bag that we manufacture is a 6-inch by 6-inch bag. So we've seen people be able to get necklaces and cuffs in there. But we do make larger bags that a lot of what we use, I don't know if people can see this or not. This is a corrosion intercept bag. Now, I actually have my business card in here. You can see through the bag, but if you saw this by itself, it's just got a copper color to it. Now, we also make these in a translucent style, so you can't see what's in it, but we make them in larger bags. We have a 10-inch by 12-inch, which will certainly take any necklace you can put into it. So the beauty about Intercept is it doesn't, even if you have a Ziploc closure, you don't have to, let's say you forget to close it, it's still going to work. The Ziploc is really just so it doesn't fall out. It doesn't add any additional protection really, because you've surrounded your product with the Intercept material, putting it in the bag. And that's why the bags will work for a lot longer than the strips and tabs will.
Now Nessie's asking, if you have a strip on the underside of an earring card, will the top side where the earrings are be protected?
No, what'll happen is, let's say you have an earring box. You put the tab inside the box. If you put the earring pad on top of that, maybe it's the cardboard type where there's like a space, the posts won't tarnish.
You have great looking posts.
The item on the top isn't going to look so good.
So what do you recommend?
What you really want to do is you want to put one on the top. Now, you don't have to worry if it's being shipped or stored. You don't have to worry about it causing any issues, because even if it rubs up against your product, it's not going to harm it. Like I said, it doesn't emit any chemicals or oils. It's not abrasive. There's nothing to worry about. The only downside to that is if you have it on display. Some people say, well, I don't want this, on display, or if you're giving it as a gift, it may look kind of funny. Somebody opens the box and there's that little
strip falls out.
But it's no different than, you buy a bottle of vitamins, it's got this little pouch in there that absorbs all the moisture, right?
Or do it like flowers. When you get flowers and there's the little thing hanging on the card ribbon that has the ingredients to put in the water. Here's your little gift of tarnish strips to keep your,
And because we sell a lot of these strips to a lot of the suppliers to the mass retailers, we actually get a lot of consumers buying through our website because the anti-tarnish tab, for those that buy it with the printing where it says Intercept anti-tarnish poly tab, people go online, they Google it, then they find the product and they end up buying it for their own use at home. So it's a great item for retailers to resell to their customers.
Well, and it would be so much better. So many consumers will buy sunshine cloths at a retail store that bought the little sunshine cloth display. And sunshine cloths are wonderful for their purpose, but they use them on their opals. They don't understand what you can't use a sunshine cloth on. So
the other thing is the polishing companies, the companies that sell polishing cloths and the cleansers that you spray on and all that, they hate us. Why? Because we keep it from tarnishing, so they don't need to polish it.
You need to do it.
So they're going to sell less polishing cloth. They're going to sell less polishing liquids, dips and all that stuff. So we're Intercept what we call an interruptive technology.
Yeah. Fred had a question that was sort of on that same vein. He said, what about jewelry on a pad? in an open cell environment in a department store? How can you use Intercept to protect those goods?
Okay, we have a product, it's called Intercept foam. It looks like this. And basically it's it's a dense piece of foam where we take the Intercept in a liquid form and we saturate it into the foam. This piece of foam is about a quarter inch thick, measures 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. You put it in your showcase. Each foam piece will protect a 6-foot showcase. So you stick it in the corner of the showcase or maybe behind the necklace stand.
Behind the bust, yeah.
Maybe so you don't see it. And it will work for about a year. And they're very inexpensive. I think we retail them for $7 for 2 of them. So,
Well, and I think Fred was asking earlier, what are the, and if it wasn't Fred, I apologize, but I kind of remember it was Fred. What are the costs of the strips, of the foam? Like, what kind of prices are we looking at here?
Okay, so we sell them on our website. The website is basically for anybody can go on there. You can be a retailer, a manufacturer, a consumer. But if you're in the industry, what you want to do is you want to contact us via email or telephone, and we'll give you wholesale pricing. So basically the pricing depends on the quantity per pack. We have like 2x7 strips, for example. They come in packs of 10, 20, 500, and 1,000. So obviously the more you buy, if you're buying packs of 1,000, it's a lot cheaper than you're buying packs of 20. So but an example, they retail on our website, it's $10 for a pack of 20.
Okay.
Of the 2x7 inch strips. So very competitive. And if you can find them through all our distributors. They're all basically going to sell at similar pricing. A lot of our distributors might be a little bit less than our website prices because we kind of like to support them. Ours is really more for the consumer. But we do get a lot of designers and small mom and pops that will also come through us. If they're buying small quantity, then they just pay the price on the website. But if they're using larger quantities, then they should contact us and we'll give them wholesale pricing.
It's interesting because, over the last 10 years, as we see a lot of jewelry sales moving to like microsellers and independent designers online and not buying through the traditional jewelry store experience, we do see a lot of consumer reaction to Tarnish. Stuff that they weren't aware of, or they're getting silver that's not, plated, or, and so controlling that from the production point all the way through to the consumer is really beneficial.
Right. It's interesting is that Tiffany, for example, they don't rhodium plate. They don't sell rhodium plated jewels.
Nope.
Because if they rhodium plate, it makes it look like white gold. And then again, it causes the issues that we spoke about earlier.
Then it wears off.
Polish it and repair it, and basically screwed. So that's why it's better just to protect with a tab or a bag of our product, or whatever you choose to use. But Intercept is definitely the best product for that. But yeah, it's an issue. And a lot of times retailers don't necessarily want to you don't want to tell the customer, oh, the silver is going to tarnish.
Why not? I don't understand that. It's like that's what we need to tell consumers what to expect with their products. It taps into a total pet peeve of mine. It's like platinum's beautiful in its own right. White gold is beautiful in its own right. Silver is beautiful in its own right. They're different looking metals, and yet we just rhodium plate everything and it all looks the same. And it's not like rhodium's cheap. So we're much better off just informing our consumers.
And that's where material like Intercept comes in. A little tab is basically 3 or 4 cents, depending on the quantity, less than that. But rhodium is, what is it now, 19? I think is it up to $20,000 an ounce now?
I don't know what it is today, but it's been astronomical all year. I mean, it's finally settling down, but it's not cheap.
But basically, Intercept is really, it's used as also, industry-wide, it's used as a quality assurance product. Because that's basically its main function, is to make sure that the item ends up at the consumer looking
the way
pristine.
it was first made. Yep. No, I like
And
that.
some people will balk. Oh, I don't want to. They don't want to spend the money. But you know what? when you figure out that chart I showed you all the risks and the costs.
That's cheap insurance.
It's worth a lot more than 3 or 4 cents to protect your reputation and have your silver jewelry looking great.
That is very true. And for the producers in this audience, making sure that, you know, if you're selling through an intermediary like a retailer, not just leaving it to them to make sure the jewelry makes it to the consumer untarnished. Let's see, Estelle had another question. She was saying, would an Intercept strip protect the large neck wire in a polyzip lockback?
Absolutely.
Okay. And Jameson wants to know, what's the benefit of the display case fan over the saturated foam pads?
We have a filtration unit. It's on our website. It measures about 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches by 3 inches approximately. It runs on 2 D batteries and it has a little round Intercept filter on the front of the unit. Basically what it does is as soon as you put the batteries in, it runs. It doesn't make any noise, it doesn't emit any chemicals or oils. All it does is works just like all our Intercept products. It absorbs and neutralizes corrosive gases, but in this case, the corrosives that are getting into your showcase. Now, I talked about the foam. The foam will do that, but if you're constantly opening and closing the case, the fan is actually a little bit better solution because every time you open that case, more gases get in. So what the filter does, because it's always running 24/7, it's constantly cleaning the corrosives and neutralizing them inside the showcase.
That's cool.
So it's just another method to use. Either one will work. The Intercept foam is almost the same really effect because it's a much bigger piece of foam, even though it's not constantly recirculating the air through it. The one on the filter is about 1 inch in diameter, where this is 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches, so it's going to give you about the same amount of protection. It's just a matter of what you prefer and what your environment is like.
Right. Wendy's saying, sorry, she hopped on late. Maybe if you address this, though we didn't actually talk about this already, Wendy, so you didn't miss anything. She wants to know if Intercept can help protect copper, brass, and 14-karat gold pieces.
Yes, absolutely. Pardon me. Intercept works on all ferrous and non-ferrous metals. Basically, what that means is it works on anything. Interesting thing is, we also Intercept is also used for garments, because Intercept's function is that it absorbs and neutralizes corrosive gases that cause the breakdown of materials, not just metals, but fabrics. Colors fade. Mm-hmm. Intercept will keep that from happening because all it does is it protects everything from atmospheric degradation. So it works on any metal, and it works on garments. It works on we also use it. We have another division where we sell it for firearms. You can go on our website. You could use Intercept. We have Intercept bags for firearms, and we also have it for electronics that you could use to protect your electronics. So it works on anything. We have a little joke around here is that basically it stops things from getting old, right? So we say if you stick your body inside, you won't get old.
Intercept bag? Can I stop tarnishing?
I'm actually 105. I look good, right?
Well, I'm picturing it. You said the gun analogy, and I realized, so I'm now picturing, because I've used tarnish removers for, all of my jewelry industry career, but really, it's not like the surgeon removing the bullet. It jumps in front of the bullet. Like the bullet never gets there.
Exactly. It acts as it's a barrier. It's a barrier film. So any corrosives that are trying to attack whatever you're trying to protect are killed by the Intercept material. So that's basically how it works.
Now, Jill has a really cool question. She said, if an item is already oxidized, will Intercept help reduce the tarnish? Like, will it suck the tarnish off?
Excellent question. Okay, what it will do is Intercept will stop it from getting any more tarnished than it already is, or any more oxidized than it is. So there's, oxidized jewelry is a big look now, right? The problem is, after a while, it keeps
going.
It gets darker. So this is a way to keep that from happening. It will keep it from getting worse. So basically, Intercept is sort of like with computers. garbage in, garbage out, whatever it looks like going in, that's what it's gonna look like coming out. So if your item has already started to tarnish, it'll stop it in its tracks. So whatever it looks like going in the bag, that's what it's gonna look like when you take it out.
Well, that's also interesting for the designers in the audience because there have been issues where an item is oxidized and that's part of its design. And then later it gets more oxidized and then the consumer polishes all the oxidation off and now the patina isn't what it's supposed to be. So it will also protect that oxidized jewelry, but you can't use it as a tarnish remover, just as a preventer.
That was my next thing I was gonna say. Intercept will not remove tarnish. Its sole function is to prevent it or to stop it where it is.
Okay.
So if you use it from the very beginning, and
Now Estelle is saying, I'm assuming other, Estelle, tell me if I'm wrong here. If you're using other anti-tarnish jewelry papers, will they interfere with Intercept's ability to work?
well, if you were using VCIs,
Don't use VCs.
you don't want to use those. It's going to cause issues. Because even though if you have it in with Intercept, there's chemicals in the VCIs that are going to give you issues that I really can't go into. It's a very long conversation, but yeah, it's not. You don't want to mix it with other anti-corrosive materials, unless if it's rhodium plated. I mean, look, rhodium, contrary to popular belief, it does oxidize.
It does.
It will discolor.
Over time.
And Intercept will stop that. So.
What's your website address? That is also being asked.
www.interceptjewelrycare.com.
Interceptjewelrycare.com. Okay, I'll put it in here.
It's also on the link to the webinar.
All right, cool. Estelle, I'm not sure. I know that Stolar sells a lot of different papers, so we probably wouldn't be in a position to answer that whether Intercept would interfere with those or not without knowing more about the actual paper.
Okay, well, you bring up a good, reminded me of a subject that we should touch on. It's very important, actually. There's a lot of product out there that people, particular tissue paper. Now, anti-tarnish tissue paper is used widely in the jewelry industry.
Mm-hmm, it is.
Here's the catch. It doesn't prevent tarnish. They say when they're using the word anti-tarnish, what they're saying is it doesn't cause tarnish. So if you use that anti-tarnish tissue, it won't cause your item to tarnish. It doesn't mean it prevents it from tarnishing. So sometimes people use that word a little too loosely. So you could use tissue paper. We have customers that wrap stuff in tissue paper. They put Intercept in the tissue and then wrap that around the product. Why? I don't know. But
It's a presentation thing, but I think that's an important point. Remember that tissue paper is for presentation, not to have anything to do with the atmospheric control or tarnish prevention of your jewelry.
Like I said, it won't cause tarnish. Tissue paper is very.
You know, like the bag you've also got in there with it.
I mean, tissue paper is extremely porous, right? I mean, you can put it up to your mouth and blow right through it.
Kind of in that vein, Wendy's saying she's looking at your website. She sees the bags and the squares. Which do you recommend for jewelry storage? And this would be, I think it's by Wendy, designer. You know, like smaller, not mass manufacturing storage, but individual storage.
Okay,
is that right, Wendy?
It's a matter of what you're trying to accomplish. If you're just looking for a short-term solution, then the tabs and strips are perfect. It's very inexpensive, and you'll get 6 to 12 months of protection out of it, plus or minus, right? If you want longer, to last longer, then you want to use the bags or our pouches, because those will work for 3 years or more.
3 years, you said?
3 years or more.
Okay, but designers in the audience, I don't want you sitting on your jewelry for 3 years or more. But it'll work.
You're going to sell a lot quicker than that, you're in trouble. But we have a customer, he's a retail jeweler, I forget where state he's in. He loves our product. He started including it with every sale he made with his silver jewelry. And what happened was people started asking, what is it, you know? Next thing you know, they wanted to buy it because they had all the silver at home they wanted to use it. So now he actually resells our product. And it was in the beginning, he just gave it away because it was, it's a nickel, 10 cents, 20 cents. And his customers, he said, were so grateful. They couldn't believe that. They didn't have any idea that anything like that even existed.
Yeah.
So in some instances, it's best just to give it away. Just give it to your customer because you'll have a customer for life.
It's a cheap way to give a lot of happiness and security and trust. Estelle is saying correctly, tissue paper isn't just for presentation. It can also be used between jewelry elements in a package to keep them from rubbing together. And she's right. Yeah. Wendy's clarifying. She's saying, so are you suggesting for storage use squares, but when selling, package it in the bags? That does make sense to me. Because the consumer should have it for use.
If you're going to sell it, you're selling it, let's say you're a retailer or designer, you're selling to the consumer. The best thing you can do is use the Intercept pouches. That's a nice presentation.
Do you have an example of the pouch there at your desk?
I do. It's a fabric pouch.
I know, but let's see it. Of course, Mark's in Austin, so he's like just getting his, electronic life back online here after a week of power outages.
Here's a couple of pouches.
Let's see, hold that up again. There you go. Okay, so typical pouch, but it's just impregnated on the inside with the Intercept?
Yeah, so here's one. We can also put your logo on it. And you can see, I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but there's copper on the inside of this.
Oh yeah, I can see the pinkish stone through my camera.
A little bit of a copper color, because what we did was took the Intercept as a liquid form. We make big wide rolls of fabric, they're 56 inches wide, and we run it through a printing press, really. And we take Intercept in a liquid form, and we print the liquid onto the back of the fabric, because it's a flocked fabric. Okay, so we use flocked fabrics because it won't saturate through and change the color of the bag. So we can do all kinds of colors. We can run white with pink polka dots, no problem.
Now, Wendy's saying she doesn't see the pouches on your website, so... Oh, never mind. Now she says she found it.
It's all on the product page.
All right. Well, guys, we have 2 minutes left. Do you have any more questions for Marc while we've got him here? And any last thoughts you want to leave us with, Marc?
Well, if anybody has any questions about the webinar or going forward, or if you're interested in knowing more about the product, also I think I told you just about all there is to know. You can email us, you can call us. Our website, interceptjewelrycare.com. Or you can email me directly, Marc, M-A-R-C, at interceptjewelrycare.com. Also go on the MJSA website, look for our webinar that we had today, or the announcement of it. You'll also see a link to our website, and you can get our contact information that way.
Well, I suspect that a lot of people wouldn't think you could talk about anti-tarnish product for an hour, but this was so interesting. I had so much fun. There's a lot to say.
Yeah, there is, and it's a fascinating subject, and I don't know if anybody can detect my passion for it, but I am very passionate about it. I'm very passionate about Intercept. It's the best product out there for what it does.
It's really cool. And we're in the metals business, so this is really important stuff for us to understand, not just at the practical application level, but also at the scientific level. So I think that was really
useful. In case I didn't mention, Intercept is also reusable. So all because you use the Ziploc bag, let's say you used it for your inventory in your store. Then you take it, you put it in a box to give to the customer as a gift. And what are you going to do with the poly bag? Use it again. As long as it hasn't started to change color, you could use it countless times.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap for today then. Marc, thank you so much. This really was fun.
My pleasure.
And I want to thank MJSA for giving us this forum of MJSA Expo Online. I'm hoping that I'm hoping we can all get together soon because I'm really looking forward to that. But I'm also hoping we can keep having conversations like this because I don't know that in the live, running through the trade show environment, we'd get an hour to actually really understand what a product like this is all about. So kudos to MJSA. This is a great series. And with that, I'll say see you later, and thanks to everyone for attending.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, take care, everyone. Bye.